Well, every once in a while, for a while there, I was on the road and I did a job out of state, and the guys I was staying with up there were all into, this was actually going back about a year, we're all into heroin, and you know, there's been a lot in the news for the last couple of years about how heroin's kind of come back, you know, and I was never really into that stuff in high school or anything like that, but...
Well, that's really changed.
Well, it has, and it sort of, I have to admit, it got my curiosity going a little bit. You know, my own personality is I'm like, I'll try anything once and see if I like it, you know. And so it kind of got the best of my curiosity. So, you know, to be thoroughly honest with you, and I'm assuming that our conversation is confidential here,
It is.
and it won't go anywhere. For the last year or so, I've used heroin off and on, let's just say, but you know, a couple times a month, something like that. There's been a little of that, and I've used speed on occasion, but it doesn't do much for me. I don't really care for it too much. So if there's like nothing else around and somebody's got it, I'll do it. But that's about it.
But in terms of getting away from it and stepping out of your stressful life, stepping out of the responsibilities, what heroin does has been more attractive than what speed does.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I always kind of like tend to call them mini vacations almost.
A drug vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your own reflection on that? In high school you said you know, you weren't into heroin. Marijuana was there. That's kind of continued. And now you find yourself using heroin and speed and some other things. As you step back and look at yourself here and say, where am I going in my life? What have you thought about that?
Well, I guess at one time I was pretty much anti anything other than marijuana. You know, I had taken that attitude. I'd taken that sort of approach that...
That's where you draw the line.
Right,
Yeah.
because, you know, at the time, you know, all the people that were advocating that we shouldn't use drugs of any kind would always say, well, it's going to lead up to something stronger and all that. And, you know, me and my friends were always like, oh, bull, you know, we smoke our pot. Don't bother us, we won't bother you, and don't tell me that, you know, I'm going to be laying in the gutter next week hooked on some other kind of drugs, because it's not true. And I still don't know if I believe that's true or not, but it has caused me a little bit of doubt in myself to sort of have had to change my philosophy a little bit to make room for that now, because I've sort of, you know, tried to forget about that I used to say that.
Right.
Because now here I am, you know, indulging in some of those things, and so it's caused me a little internal conflict, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm asking about. And I really appreciate how honest you're being and how you're struggling with this with me. But there was a line that you drew and said, okay, that's where I'm going to stop. And then you stepped over it, and you stepped over another line and another line. And that was what I was asking about, is are there moments when you say, gee, where am I headed here?
I guess there are. Yeah. There are a few moments where I'm wondering, not so much that I can't envision the kind of life that I want to be leading in another year or so. I'm just wondering, you know, how am I going to get from where I am now to there? I keep thinking that when the time comes, everything's going to take care of itself. And I'm still not so sure that's not going to be the case. But I don't know.
Yeah, I hear a confidence that if you were to decide that you need to make a change here, if you're having a baby, for example, that you could make that change. You feel pretty confident that you've got that ability within you, and it's more that you haven't seen the need of doing that yet.
Right.
And in some ways, you know, don't want to see that this is the time, because it's a letting go of something that was dear to you.
That's true, because part of what concerns me, or what my fear is about that, is that everybody wants to tell you that, well, once you've passed this sort of point of no return, that you've got to completely radically change your whole life, and that, you know, you're never going to be able to, you know, even have a beer again, and you're going to have to put down all your toys completely, and this kind of stuff. And so in a sense, I'm kind of afraid of what changes I'm going to need to make, or what someone's going to make me do to try to get to where I can keep things cool with a family and a job and all that kind of stuff. Those are what my fears are about that.
That someone would make you make that change. Yeah. I mean, what you say is absolutely true, that it is up to you. No one makes that choice for you. No one can make that choice for you. Even if your wife wanted to decide for you, or I wanted to decide for you, or your employer wanted to decide for you, nobody can. It really is completely your own choice. How you live your life, what you do about drugs, where you're headed. So that is yours. And what I hear you struggling with is, what do I want? I mean, is this time for me to think about things? And is this drug test a little wake-up call?
At first, I didn't think it was a little wake-up call, to be honest with you. I was
just angry about it.
My usual mindset is to, you know, take it on as just one more little thing that's in my way of getting to my goal, like anything on the job or anything else in my life, and just get through it and bang through it. What I have to admit it is, you know, once you wind up seeing what all the hoops that I have to jump through now just to get back to square one with the company and everything like that, and not to mention getting things back together with my wife, as far as, I mean, she didn't react too badly to this, but she's not exactly terrifically happy about it.
What's she concerned about?
Well, she kind of used the drug test situation that I'm in right now as an opportunity to you know, bring up all of this, and she's not completely aware of everything that I do on my own time as far as, you know, substances, but she's aware enough to where she decided to use this as a time to really turn up the heat on her concern on all this. So
I think you really could choose to see this either way, that what's happening here is other people are stepping into your life and trying to take control of you and make you do things you don't want to do. You could see what your wife is doing is that way. She's taking advantage of this opportunity now to tighten down on you. Your employer is making you do things you don't want to do. And it sounds like you also, looking at it another way, see that's concern, that they have some reason for concern, and what they're doing is saying, I care about you, and I'm worried about this. Your employer on the telephone to me said, we don't want to lose this guy. He's very, very important to us. And so what I was hearing from them was that same kind of concern.
Well, you know, my usual obstinate way is to try to put concerns like those within the framework of that these people are just on my back, because there are plenty of things that my wife wants to, you know, and when between a husband and a wife, there's always a little bit of power struggle going on at any given moment. And you know, I thought at first she did want to try to gain the upper hand on me with this. And you know, my boss is a great guy, and he runs a pretty good company, but you know, he's a businessman, and I've made him a lot of money over the years. So yeah, I know he doesn't want to lose me. But you know, on the other hand, I do admit that there's some human concern there too. You know, I mean, I know they care about me.
From both of them.
Yeah.